right on Charles Leclerc's tail. Looking there at Gabriel Bortoleto under pressure from Esteban Ocon, who's made a very good start, is ahead of his teammate at Haas, Ollie Behrman, as we cross the line, 0.8 of a second between George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. Charles Leclerc, Antonelli, down the inside on Charles Leclerc. There's that Mercedes speed, but it's too fast as he goes off the track for a third time, and we've only just started lap 2.
He'll have to give that place back because he's clearly gone off track, and he does at the next opportunity down into turn 3. But is this going to be an opportunity for Max Verstappen? Having a look around the outside, Antonelli now switches back to the inside on the run down the straight. Verstappen's in the toe though, Crofty, behind Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, and here he goes past Kimi Antonelli. He's going to have to go the long way round the outside. Late braking Charles Leclerc cuts across Max Verstappen, tries to preserve his place. Max Verstappen saw that coming. Great exit out of turn 4. And the Red Bull gets ahead of the Ferrari. Antonelli's struggling once more. Oscar Piastri on the inside. Lando Norris tries to go to the inside. Antonelli holds off both the papaya cars.
Yeah, Piastri there ahead of Norris as they came through turn 4, so it was all incredibly close. Great shot there from the drone as we went past, but Max Verstappen has got himself into the top 3.
And potentially on a 3-stop strategy. He's racy, he's aggressive, watch for that. Throughout the 71 laps, Antonelli might have had a bit of super clipping. That's why he lost speed coming out of turn 6, and already Bottas struggling. His brakes, he says, are on fire right at the back. Hamilton, fastest man on the track, he's reduced the arrears by a 10 to 7 tenths of a second as George Russell leads them now and climbing uphill towards turn 3 from Hamilton, and behind them Verstappen, Leclerc, Antonelli, Piastri and Norris.
Valtteri Bottas has come into the pits, Crofty, so a very early issue there for Cadillac. We'll see if they get him back out, but this looks like it's settled down for this lap at least. The front right brake, we believe, was the issue for Bottas.
I think Valtteri Bottas is not coming back out. Look at that. Brakes on fire, stopping in the pit lane. That's the second time we've seen an issue with Bottas's car. It was the front bib before. Now it's the brakes and fire in the pit lane there. A lot of fire extinguishers on hand to get that problem sorted. What an opening few laps this has been, and Antonelli has been noted for leaving the track and gaining an advantage not once but twice. Now, on one occasion of the 3, he gave a place back. The other 2, he didn't have to because he didn't gain a place, but did he gain time? That's what the stewards will look at.
On fire, boy, on fire, my car.
Oh no, for Liam Lawson, overheating already, and there is the Racing Bulls. What can we see from the outside as Isaac Hadjar gains on him?
Hey, he's ahead of Hadjar, as you said, Crofty. I can't see any smoke or flames at the moment. I don't know if...
He's been on the grass, Liam Lawson. Turn 4 of the opening lap. He makes way a little bit there and does the switchback on Isaac Hadjar. That was very, very neat from Liam Lawson indeed. Clever, saw what was coming, knew how to deal with it, and he maintains that 8th place ahead of the Racing Bull, who dives down the inside. And is Lawson trying the switchback once again? Let's have a little look here as we drop down the hill now. Nothing between these two. Lawson tries to go around the outside. Hadjar's got the place.
Yeah, great clean racing there. I'm still really struggling to see where the flames are coming from. He didn't indicate whether it was in the cockpit or from somewhere else, so we'll see. For the moment, the team have obviously asked him to carry on. Up to the front though, carrying on, George Russell in the lead, but Lewis Hamilton isn't letting him escape properly as they come across the line. 1.1 seconds the gap. Max Verstappen though, the fastest lap on that lap of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, onto that in a moment. No further investigation. Kimi Antonelli for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. Lawson says he is still on fire, but we can't see it. He can obviously feel it in that cockpit. Hamilton dropping back a little bit, maintaining that gap now around 1 second. You don't want to run too close because you don't want everything to overheat, but he's got to be careful if Verstappen's got that pace on a 3-stop strategy behind him, because he could drop back into the clutches of the 4-time world champion.
I have a lot of smoke in the cockpit.
Oh, and with one Cadillac already out of the race, could we be about to lose the other? Tech Rabbits, down to you.
Yes, it's a double retirement so far. Sergio Perez is boxed. His brakes are not on fire in the way that Valtteri Bottas's were, but the engine is off, the steering wheel's off, Checo's getting out of the car. That's it. The day is done. Early bath for the Cadillac guys. Bad luck to them.
As you can see, Bortoletto noted for forcing another driver off the track. He is ahead of Gasly, who started in 11th place and is down to 13th. And now we're watching, coming round the final two corners, the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, the Mercedes of Kimi Antonelli, right behind him, the championship leader, down into 5th place. It's not been the best of starts, but we've seen him recover previously this season from a bad start, and he has got the pace in a straight line to very much challenge that Ferrari, and there is not much of an advantage for Charles Leclerc as he comes out of turn 1. We'll keep an eye on that in the background as Russell leads them into turn 3 from Hamilton, from Verstappen. Here comes Antonelli and Charles Leclerc. Now the Ferrari should be good through the slower corners, and it wasn't bad, but Antonelli is sticking to him here, and if you're trying to make an overtake, you've got to do it in a hurry, because you can't follow very closely for very long. Looks though that Antonelli is just a bit too far behind for that late lunge.
I think Antonelli's getting a little bit frustrated there because he can see Leclerc struggling for pace a little bit. Compared to the 3 cars in front of him, Leclerc's dropped back on that last lap, a full 4/10 slower than Lewis Hamilton in the other red car. So Antonelli can sense that, okay, I have the pace here to chase after Max, but somehow he's got to find a way to clear. We have seen, Crofty, as you mentioned earlier, the Mercedes has been faster in a straight line. He's got to find a way to get himself out of this corner, out of turn 10, close enough, get the draft, get the overtake ball, and see if he can do something on the next 3 long straights up to turn 4.
If we had DRS, it would be easy. Yet that rear wing is opening and the front wing's collapsing, and that's active area. That is not an overtaking area. It's a boost, energy boost, extra half a megajoule. Is that enough for him as we watch Gabriel Bortoletto and Esteban Ocon scrapping away, going into turn 1, into turn 3 we come now. Has Antonelli got a little bit more boost? Yeah, look how close he is out of that slow corner, picking up the slipstream behind the Ferrari. Needs to get this overtake done and get it done quickly, and he's going to try round the outside. Is he? No, he's about a car length too far back to trouble Charles Leclerc through turn 4, but Leclerc not getting the best of exits out of turn 4 and through turn 5, and Antonelli is all over him as Leclerc has to slam that door well and truly shut. But can he force it shut for long enough to keep the championship leader at bay?
I think Leclerc used a lot of his energy on the run to turn 4, then had to clip and save and harvest. Look at the light flashing there. Look at him. He's saving energy, harvesting energy. He's run out of juice, and that has allowed Antonelli to get the run through into turn 9 and get ahead.
Used so much in defence earlier in the lap, had nothing left to protect himself by the end of the lap, and Antonelli's up to 4th, and Charles Leclerc, who started on the front row, is already down in 5th place. His teammate is 2 seconds behind George Russell, who's comfortable out in front currently. Charles Leclerc's problems might continue because Piastri, who's ahead of Norris after the first couple of laps, is all over him now.
I think Lewis Hamilton went off track off here at turn 1. He's had a lap time deleted perhaps, but his lap time was half a second slower than George Russell. In fact, Max Verstappen now has got the overtake on Lewis Hamilton. So somewhere, Lewis has lost a chunk of time, and now Max is right onto him.
We wonder how these tyres are holding up in these conditions. Track temperature over 60 degrees, and the car moving to oversteer quite quickly, says Lewis Hamilton. I'm not sure oversteer is particularly what you want or need on this track. A bit of understeer, probably better for you, as we watch now from the rear of Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari to see Max Verstappen in, what do they call it, hot pursuit?
He is, isn't he? Now look, the gap, probably just 0.6 of a second. So he's going to be in the slipstream. Look at that rear wing flipping over the Macarena wing there of the Ferrari as Verstappen looms closer. The Red Bull is also faster than the Ferrari, by the way. We should say, off the top 4 teams, the Ferrari and the McLaren seem the slower of those 4. So keep an eye on Verstappen as he comes out of this corner. We saw on the previous battle between Leclerc and Antonelli, Leclerc had to harvest a lot of energy because he dumped it here. Now, does Lewis have to do the same? There's the light flashing, but I think at the moment he seems to be okay. There's the battery indicator on the middle of the dashboard there, so the virtual dashboard on Verstappen's car.
The key will be, watch that deploy on the right-hand side. Yeah, but are they expecting it to be bad or just a little bit bad? Watch that deploy. We'll see the lights flashing. we've gone off. That's such a shame. We wanted to see when Hamilton had his lights flashing and was charging, and whether the Red Bull could deploy and wasn't charging. What a pity we cut away there, because that would have given us a really good indication. Sergio Perez.
He's had a wobble there, Copley.
He has.
Hamilton had a wobble coming out of turn 9. That would have affected his exit on the run up to turn 1. Let's keep an eye on this battle now.
Yeah, he's just got enough of an advantage to protect himself into turn 1. He needs to get a good exit now, because Verstappen is really hunting him. And in the days of DRS, you'd fancy Verstappen to get close enough to have a lunge down the inside of turn 3. I'm not sure he's going to get close enough on this occasion. But let's see how this battle continues. By the way, Perez noted that moving before the signal, false start, won't matter. He's out of the race, as is his teammate Valtteri Bottas. There goes the flippy wing to dump a load of drag. The active aero now shuts. Gives Lewis Hamilton the grip he needs through the corner. But Verstappen is right on his tail. He's only about 3-4 car lengths behind, coming out of that turn 4. And these overtakes are developing and they're evolving for much longer than we've seen in the past. And turn 7's coming up.
So Verstappen could trigger this early. He is very close to Lewis. Every extra second we can get.
That's what George Russell has been told by Marcus Dudley, his race engineer. I was going to say 7 and 8. Watch for Verstappen there, closing in on the Ferrari. Sooner or later, he's going to be in a position here.
Yeah, he absolutely is. I wonder if we could go to Bernie Collins. Bernie, what do you think of Red Bull going to pull the trigger here? Because does Verstappen look like he's stuck behind Hamilton?
100% correct. Verstappen is stuck behind Hamilton. Hamilton got 6 tenths of a second between laps 5 and 6, and he has not recovered that. He is struggling all the time.
So certainly there goes Max Verstappen down the inside on Lewis Hamilton. And that was absolutely perfect from Verstappen to take second place from Hamilton. Great scrap between these two. But Hamilton's going to come back at Verstappen now, and he's inched away. But the inside lines, the Rebel who locks up to avoid any problems going into the Ferrari, and under locking up still manages to stay in contention. And Verstappen still fighting it with that extra speed down the straights to try and go round the outside. This is absolutely epic as Verstappen goes onto the gravel, and he is still there. Hamilton trying to shake him off, and eventually he does.
I mean, Anthony Davidson and I are up at the corner. We can't stop smiling. This is what great motor racing between two great world champions is all about. That was clean. It was on the edge. It was on the limit. But I think that was great, clean racing all round.
I just want to say, take the bow to Bolton, because that was epic. Hamilton knew that he was under problems there, and there was trouble coming his way. But he kept calm, he kept patient, and he knew there was a chance coming. And guess what? We might get a repeat right now. Here comes Verstappen again. He thinks Hamilton's moved in the braking zone there. I didn't get a clear enough angle to say yay or nay to that one, but the lock-up from Verstappen maybe then is inducing a little complaint from him. Max, just get your head down and do it all again, because this is great excitement. However, this pans out, and on this occasion, Verstappen hasn't quite got enough on Hamilton to get alongside.
Yeah, the way it just snapped, he got a little kick, the surge of power there. As we take a look at the race start from the helicopter. Looking at the launch there, Crofty, we have seen the other teams have caught up generally with Ferrari, isn't it? We're not seeing. I do think Leclerc got a better launch, but Russell got a good enough one to cover him off there. Antonelli off the track. Let's look at a run down in turn 3, because Antonelli went off again at turn 3, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. So watch for the Mercedes there with Lewis Hamilton on the inside. Leclerc's challenging Russell, and Antonelli just gets a bit compromised behind Charles Leclerc and thinks, right, you know, I'm going to bail out here rather than go into the back of it. Into the pits comes Lewis Hamilton. Ferrari triggered that before Max Verstappen can pit. We're still watching Liam Lawson scrapping away with Lando Norris. This was Charles Leclerc's start. Watch Russell come right across him here as Leclerc has to move to the outside. Hamilton rejoins this race and goes onto the hard compound tyre, and he should come out just ahead of Esteban Ocon. That was the gap Ferrari was trying to give him.
Yeah, he's come out behind Bortoleto, hasn't he? So let's have a look at now what Max Verstappen can do as he's been unleashed. It's all helped George Russell.
Outlap critical, outlap critical. Let's push.
They want to see, will Verstappen respond here and pit, and well, now he's released. Has he got the pace to push, stop, get out ahead of Hamilton? What's he got left in terms of grip on those tyres? Because that big lock-up will take you quite a bit of
that battle, I was just thinking about Russell, gave George an extra 3.5 seconds.
Yeah.
That gave him a bit of reprieve, and that's put Mercedes into a more comfortable position strategically now. But what does Max Verstappen do?
He stays out. Ted Kravitz to you.
He stays out, but we've got a couple coming in. We've got the Racing Bulls and Ferrari are out for Charles Leclerc, which I think you're just about to see. There he is, pops in, and this is prime three-stop strategy. So like Barcelona, Ferrari are accepting they're a bit harder on their tyres than the Mercedes, and maybe even than the Red Bull as well, and they're sticking to a three-stop race. Let's see how it progresses.
This morning, Ted, Crocky and I had a little chat with Ferrari, and they were saying to us, Crocky, weren't they, that one thing they learned in Barcelona is that the track evolution to the end of the race was very, very high, and the track ramped up a lot. So I took from that if they were to run the soft tyre, they will try and run it at the end of the Grand Prix, because it kind of sounded like it caught them a little bit by surprise in Barcelona. And Diego, the sporting director, was saying, we might try it, but we might have to do something different with the soft if we do it. You know?
What I do feel, Bernie Collins, is that Ferrari are prepared to react to what the track is doing rather than saying we've got a set plan, we're going to go for it.
Yeah, I think that's right, Crocky. I do agree with what Corinne said about the soft at the end. That is the best chance of that tyre succeeding. But you see, Verstappen's pace has picked up now that he's not behind that struggle in Ferrari of Hamilton anymore. But it's not as quick as Hamilton on the fresh set. So does Verstappen need to react to it? Or is he going to convert to more a two-stop strategy and treat the free track ahead?
If he pits now, he comes out about 2/10 behind Lewis Hamilton. Verstappen was 3/10 slower than Lewis Hamilton on that previous lap, but Hamilton now on the fresher tyres. That's a big lock-up once again, and Kimi Antonelli is right there with Verstappen. And by the way, Hamilton has been noted for forcing another driver off the track. We saw that turn 6 incident. Max wasn't overly happy with that. He had the lock-up at turn 4, turn 6, a couple of corners further on. Was he forced off the track? He was on the gravel, but just...
Yeah, but as Martin Rundle says, the throttle pedal goes both ways. So at some point you can bail out of it as well. And for me, that was on the edge, but I think that was okay.
I think they were both very hard, very committed, and being fair. But let's have a little look then at some of Max Verstappen's adventures here. This is how he got past the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. You could see that Leclerc was going to go deep and deep into the corner on the exit. Absolutely superb for Max Verstappen to get on the power and get past the Ferrari. Nice. This is Lewis Hamilton taking the line towards the inside of turn 4. Verstappen locks up, and this is the bit where Max Verstappen is complaining about. Sadly, we're not going to see it as Lewis Hamilton gets past Arvid Lindblad in the Racing Bulls. Yeah.
I'd like to see that turn 6 again, but we'll have a look at it, I'm sure.
Just you and about 25 million people around the world, but there you go. Lap 16 of 71. George Russell leads from Max Verstappen, 5 seconds the gap. Kimi Antonelli 1.8 seconds behind.
Yeah, you can see in the picture on the left-hand side, there's Mika Hulkenberg there chasing Esteban Ocon, and he's going down the inside of Esteban Ocon. So the heavily revised Audi, they brought a big upgrade here. They've now got 1 car in the points.
I think it's all started overheated. The one-stop engine was...
Hey.
Hang on a minute, Anthony Davidson, the Sky Race control. We know George Russell whispers well to tyres, but this is hushed tones if he can do a one-stop today.
I'll be very impressed and surprised if he can manage that on a hot day like we have here at the Red Bull Ring, but you never know. He's done it in the past, he could do it again, or maybe trying to sell other teams listening in a bit of a dummy. But Verstappen at the moment seems to be the one on the radio, Crofty, complaining the least about his tyres and the balance of the car. Who's right over now, just coming down on the front wing slightly at his next step, so he's clearly suffering a little bit of oversteer in those last few corners.
Bernie Collins, if we can go to you on the pit board, you've got all the data in front of you. Have Ferrari committed to a 3-stopper here, and have Red Bull called their bluff by having the tyres to do a 3-stopper, but not the inclination?
Yeah, well, Red Bull were in the stronger position. They left themselves open to do an either strategy. I don't think Ferrari are fully committed to that should last significantly longer than the medium tyres. So it is possible from here just to do this sort of car they're currently on and one more. Red Bull and the Mercedes in the stronger position though.
Pace, it's okay. Better now. You are faster than Charles.
And Charles Leclerc last lap 1:12.5. Lewis Hamilton last lap 1:12.4.
Yeah, I think the problem is Hamilton's stuck here behind the racing bulls. He's had to clear some of the traffic. I mean, and he's not really made much headway with these brand new tyres from him.
Yeah, but his times are okay, as he now is going to clear the next racing bulls. He's got past Lindblad, he's now got past Liam Lawson. Now there's a bit of a gap for him to drive into some clean air.
Yeah, I get that, but he's still 24 seconds behind George, and when he came out of the pits, he was only 25. My point is, on these brand new hard tyres over 5 laps, compared to George's used tyres, he's only gained a second, which is not a lot. Here we go, Max Verstappen now diving into the pits. So what do Mercedes do here?
Well, they might need to react with one or both. Verstappen pits, Russell has already carried on, Antonelli is carrying on. And let's have a look at this pit stop from above the Red Bull box as Verstappen stops on his marks. They get to work, it's absolutely simple, perfect and fast, 2.4 seconds. Verstappen back out onto the track. Now, where is Lewis Hamilton? Did he get held up enough by those racing bulls? I don't think he has. Even though Verstappen's got the inside line here, Verstappen is well behind Hamilton when he comes out of the pits.
Yeah, he's got a 6-lap advantage on the tyres, though, Max Verstappen. So let's see if he can make it count, because I don't, Lewis hasn't been firing up the timesheets, has he? I know he was stuck behind the racing bulls. Ooh, Verstappen there struggling a little bit at turn 3, so maybe it is taking a little bit longer for the hard tyre. Maybe there isn't performance in the hard tyre. What we should remember is neither of those cars have run the hard tyre this weekend.
That's true.
This is their first laps on the hard tyre, because every team gets the same allocation, just 2 sets for the weekend, and most of them have kept them for the race.
George Russell is coming into pit. Bernie Collins.
Yeah, I was just saying, Russell, he's got margin now to Hamilton, so if there's any warm-up on the hard tyre, he'll come out ahead. He has a few laps to get that tyre in. Antonelli might just continue, because Antonelli's already behind Hamilton with Verstappen, so why not take the advantage of the free air?
Yeah, if this is a one-stop strategy from George Russell, he's going to go 51 laps on the hard tyre. That is probably not going to happen. Little pits of detritus clear the way out and brings up to Oscar Piastri's front left wheel as he pits too. Liam Lawson has also been into the pits. George Russell comes out, and that is the gap between himself and Lewis Hamilton, which kind of net leader, net second as it stands in this race. The McLaren of Oscar Piastri back out onto the racetrack. McLaren want him ahead of Isaac Hadjar, who's running down in 8th place, and Hadjar's already been into the pits, and they've got that right.
So Russell is 3 seconds ahead.
Rado, we're going to stay out. You'll get clean air. We're going to extend.
I'm going to my pace, so this is it.
Is that pace enough so they can maybe do a one-stopper and save themselves 20 seconds for having an extra pit stop? We'll find out.
Just look at the tyres here. Watch as Lewis comes through the corner. You can see inside shoulder, their front left, is already in great shape, as we see Portoletto going past Colapinto there for 13th place. Out on track, as we said, I was just saying, Croppy, Russell has come out 1.7 ahead of Hamilton, who has now got Verstappen within the overtake, I think, on this lap.
He has. The hard tyre here, the C3, Bernie Collins, it's not the hardest of hard tyres. It's often the medium and a very favourable tyres for the teams.
Yeah, I think the hard tyre looks okay. I think Hamilton was hurt a little bit by track effect. Verstappen hasn't had that. His hard has had a better introduction, we call it. Just quickly on Kimi Antonelli. Charles Leclerc is currently 3 seconds behind his head window. So if Antonelli boxes now, he should be around 3 seconds ahead of Leclerc. But Leclerc is closing quickly, a second a lap. So they might need to act in the next lap or 2 with Kimi Antonelli.
Hamilton and Verstappen have produced some superb racing so far on this Austrian Sunday. We might be in for a bit more, and the stewards aren't going to get involved from the preview previous incident in turn 6, where Max maybe felt that he was forced off the track. They decided he definitely wasn't. Kimi Antonelli leads this race. He hasn't pitted yet. Lando Norris is coming into the pits. He's currently running second. George Russell, the first of those that has pitted, just makes his way past Lando Norris and down towards the main straights.
I wonder if George would have lost a bit of time there, because it's an unusual pit lane entry here on the inside of turn 9, very quick corner. Lando had to slow down. I wonder if George had to slow down a little bit behind it, but watch Verstappen. He set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix on the previous lap. This time round, nearly the same lap time again, and he is right there with Lewis Hamilton.
So, will he make the late lunge at turn 3? Oh, yes, he will. Max Verstappen down the inside. Hamilton saw it coming. Left a gap. Oh, tried the switchback. That is not going to work on that occasion. But now in the slipstream, can he get Max Verstappen into turn 4? Use a bit of boost. Extra energy. Is it possible? Yes, it is. Hamilton is back ahead of Max Verstappen. And now it is going to carry on, as we saw previously, as they drop downhill towards the inside of turn 6, where Max Verstappen, under braking, has to move across Lewis Hamilton. That forced Hamilton just to jam on the brakes a little bit. Verstappen is through and ahead of Lewis Hamilton, and they got close again.
Yeah, it was feisty, it was aggressive, but it was crucial for Max to get it done in the middle sector and then be able to attack these final few corners, open up a little bit of a gap, so Hamilton doesn't get the toe, doesn't get the benefit of the overtake, and I think he's done it there, Crofty.
I think he has, even though he didn't go a little bit wide in that final corner. He's got a decent advantage. Hamilton's tyres, I don't think are in as good a shape as Max Verstappen's at this time, and it's hurting him.
Yeah, and the other thing is, by making the move down the inside of 6, it forced Lewis onto the dust, onto the marble. Lewis would have picked up that sort of rubbish, and it takes 2 or 3 corners to clean up, and I think that's allowed Max to just break away. Aggressive stuff, but effective.
This is after Lando Norris' pit stop. What do you want to be doing when you've got a fresh set of C3 tyres on?
Yeah, so what can Verstappen now do with George Russell? He's only 3 seconds behind. I'll tell you what, should we ask his boss?
Yeah, why not? Lauren Mekies, thanks for joining us. We are thoroughly absorbed in this race, and I'm sure you are too. Are you enjoying it? Is it going according to plan so far?
Look, I think the first positive news for us is the underlying pace seems good. Max is able to certainly to fight for the top position. Let's see where it is relative to the top spot, but for sure he's able to fight just behind that top spot. So that's the first good news. And as you can see, there is still a bit of a good fair bit of strategic game going on with tire and strategy, so that will make the race, I'm sure, interesting for a long while.
Laurent, I know you're not going to tell us what you're going to do, but Kimi Antonelli in the lead is still going with the medium tyre. Do you think they're going to try a one-stop?
It looks a bit of a stretch, if I'm honest, to try that. But you know, Kimi's pace has been very, very good all weekend. So you never know what he's going to come out with. But with the deck we see, for sure, one stop looks like a stretch. But again, they have a serious pace advantage. Let's see.
And very briefly, is tyre deg worse or better than you expected?
It's not too far from expectation.
Thanks ever so much, Lauren. Brilliant.
And deck on hard seems lower. We are thinking also about plan B.
It doesn't feel that way to me, mate.
Hamilton not enjoying himself, and as a car stopped on the track, and it is Carlos Sainz in the Williams, and that is going to give Kimi Antonelli a chance now to come into the pits under yellow flags, not the virtual safety car, but Antonelli, who is behind his teammate, George Russell now, making that pit stop. The 2 Ferraris are going to come through, Hamilton and Leclerc. Russell is the new race leader, and now we've got the virtual safety car. Oh, Bernie Collins, did they pull the pin too early on Kimi Antonelli?
What terrible timing for Kimi Antonelli, Crofty. He's 1 lap too early, and that is the worst thing that could happen as a strategist. If he just waited 1 more lap, he would have got at least Leclerc. But because he bought before the VSC was deployed, and I think they didn't see that Carlos Sainz is stopping the main straight, he made a full pit loss and is now behind Charles Leclerc. Terrible timing for Kimi Antonelli.
Anthony Davis in the Sky Race Control had Kimi Antonelli committed to coming into the pits before Carlos Sainz stopped.
Standby caller. Come to me a bit later.
I'll go to Ted then. Ted, you looking down the pit lane.
Well, I can see, crucially, I can see the Mercedes mechanics in the pit lane, and I think the answer to that is going to be no, he was not committed. I think they had a few seconds, it wasn't long, but I think they had a few seconds for when we all saw Sainz conk out by the pit wall to know that there's going to be a virtual safety car. Someone quickly get on the radio to Kimi to say, stay out, Kimi, stay out. But they didn't, and he's lost the opportunity of a cheap pit stop.
And why is this important? It's about 20.5 seconds for a pit stop loss. It's about 10.5 seconds if you do it under the virtual safety car.
Box. Tell me too late.
Lewis,
Good rider.
they did. Ferrari gave the warning as soon as they could. Hamilton now does come in. We're still behind this virtual safety car. Charles Leclerc has stayed out. That's a really rapid stop there for Lewis Hamilton.
I think it's because he was struggling for pace.
Yeah.
I think they realized they had to get him off that tyre. He was struggling for whatever reason. They put him on the soft. Look, they've gone for that huge set of soft tyres. So Ferrari, like we saw in Barcelona, rolling the dice, being a bit aggressive with their strategic calls here. He's come out, as you said, Crofty, behind Isaac Hadjar now in 7th place. So we'll see how this one plays out. Does anyone else hit, do you think?
And now they're not going to, because the pit lane entry is closed, because they pushed Carlos Sainz's car from the track into the pit lane. Bernie Collins.
Yeah, Crofty, I was just going to come in and Kimi Antonelli. Because of this unusual pit entry here, they need to be inside the line early turn 9, entry turn 9. I think Kimi Antonelli had committed to stop it at the point that Carlos Sainz started to slow the GPS. So I don't think Mercedes could have reacted to that. That's maybe the good news. The bad news is, if they had waited one more lap, we would have gained over Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton,
what
and
about
Max
we did
Verstappen.
break? I'm not confident.
Got a brake split, mate, so one's hotter than the other.
And that wasn't bad enough. He's having some really bad issues with the brakes, as you heard Bono explaining to him. Anthony Davidson, Bernie Collins with the data, thinks that Kimi had already committed to coming into the pit lane before Carlos Sainz stops. What are you finding out with the onboard?
There's nothing to suggest that he would have known all the team. There's no team radio telling him to stay out there. There was nothing on his steering wheel, and nothing I can see on the software I have, at least, to say that he should have stayed out there. There was a virtual safety car on its way. I think it was just unlucky.
Yeah. These sort of things happen. Either way, he's down in 4th place. Pit lane is now clear. Charles Leclerc up to 3rd. Max Verstappen 2nd, behind George Russell. They've all made one pit stop. In fact, the top 6 have made one pit stop. Hamilton has made 2 pit stops. We're on board with Isaac Hadjar right behind Oscar Piastri. Oh, by the way, we're racing again. What a 27 laps this has been so far.
I mean, we're not really halfway through. It's been enthralling. It's been like, and also it's been great, clean racing. We had a 5-car battle earlier. We had, the multiple world champions going at it, and now Hadjar on the back of Piastri. So we'll see. I mean, the Red Bull, I think, has got really good pace here. Max is obviously showing it up front. It is interesting, though, how that gap has stretched a bit. Russell has unleashed a bit of pace, opened up the gap. Max, last time round, taking 6 tenths back out of him. So we'll see. We'll see if, as we're into the second half of the race, whether there's more that Max can do.
We watched Piastri and Hadjar. Hadjar on the medium, Piastri on the hard, Hamilton on the soft. He's joining that battle now. And Kimi Antonelli, Bernie Collins gaining on Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, exactly, Crofty. He's got that newer tyre than Charles Leclerc, and that's what's going to give him the advantage. So I think at the pace that he showed should be okay for Kimi Antonelli to clear Leclerc, but he wants to start to close that gap to Max Verstappen. Can he get himself onto the podium and then further up the positions?
And due to this short track, we're already getting cars being lapped as well. Stroll and Alonso in the Aston Martins, and we've lost 3 from this race so far. Bottas and Perez very, very early on in the race. Brakes on fire for Valtteri Bottas, and Carlos Sainz stopping with a mechanical issue as well in his Williams. That's his first DNF of the season for Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, let's remember, Antonelli was actually behind Max, wasn't he, before that first round of stops. And now he's got an 11-lap tyre offset to Charles Leclerc. So this should be like candy from a baby for Max, for Antonelli rather, to get ahead of Leclerc. Does he do it up into turn 3? Has a little sniff. But his race, I think, for him, he's looking beyond Charles. He's looking at Max and he's looking at George up ahead.
And George up ahead is being outpaced by Max Verstappen at the moment as Charles Leclerc once again defends from Kimi Antonelli, but he goes wider, doesn't he? And is harvesting, getting more energy into that battery coming out of that corner. Antonelli is just sticking to him a little bit, thinking, where can I pick you off? Because I'm going to pick you off in a minute.
I saw a bit of smoke there, Coffee.
Often happens with
turn
Ferraris,
around, yeah.
often happens with both Ferraris. And it's just the way their exhaust system runs. It's been intriguing me all season, trust me, on that one. Hamilton, by the way, Hamilton, by the way, gaining on Isaac Hadjar, and he's only about 4 tenths behind him as we've just seen him coming through the final corner now, as we watch Charles Leclerc leading Kimi Antonelli down the straight in the battle for currently 3rd place. While that is happening, just by 5/100ths of a second on the last lap, Verstappen closes in on George Russell again. They have got pace in that Red Bull, unless George is managing it to a certain extent in these hot conditions here in Styria. Now, the Aston Martin moves out of the way. Hadjar under pressure from Lewis Hamilton. Let's see what happens to Antonelli and Leclerc, though, as they head down towards turn 4. And Kimi Antonelli breezes past Charles Leclerc. Doesn't go as deep as we've seen other drivers go when they're late braking, and he gets that 3rd place. And whilst he does that, Lewis Hamilton is going wheel to wheel with Isaac Hadjar. Once again, Hamilton and a Red Bull, separated not by much, going through turn 6, and Hamilton is up to P6.
Yeah, great move. Hung it out the outside of turn 6. Used the softer tyre there that he's got and managed to make it stick. That was a critical move for Antonelli, by the way. On the last lap before that, they lost 7 tenths on just that single lap to Max Verstappen. So it was really important for Antonelli on those fresher tyres. Look at the graphic on the left-hand side, to get ahead of Leclerc and now set off after the Red Bull.
Kind of think, well, this is comfortable for George Russell at the moment, leading the Grand Prix. We're on lap 31 of 71, but there is a long, long way to go. That Red Bull has got some pace at the hands of Max Verstappen. This is how Lewis Hamilton got past Isaac Hadjar. There seemed to be a couple of bifold patio doors open there for Hamilton to drive into.
Yeah, I don't know, Hadjar just went in there too deep by mistake, or he was being overly generous to his childhood hero there on the inside, but it was a very, very big invitation for Lewis to take.
Just to let you know, by the way, longest soft tyre run last season, and the tyres were a bit softer in their build and their construction, was 12 laps. Nico Hulkenberg at the start of the race. So do Ferrari think they can do about 15 laps on this set of softs, then go maybe to a set of hards to the race? A yellow flag infringement for Alex Albon. Lance Stroll's been noted for one of those as well. Franco Colapinto is going down the inside on Esteban Ocon at turn 4. That looks like he got the job done. Yes, he did. 16th for him. Anthony Davidson, Sky Race Control.
Yeah, just listening into the radio of both Mercedes engineers to their drivers reporting the lap time last time around of an 11.0 for Max Verstappen, and George Russell was asked for his push level for his 11.3 that he did last time. I didn't hear his reply. He hasn't actually replied yet, but I should imagine they're all pushing about the same level. My feeling is that they are genuinely worried about the pace of Max Verstappen here. The race is on.
2 seconds, Dan.
And mode TS, mode TS.
Why do I have to go to mode TS?
Temperature.
I already have no power.
Are things getting a bit hot for Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari? He's been running close to cars for most of this race. Does he need a bit of free air, I wonder? Karun, what Anthony said there is kind of what I'm thinking here, that it might look comfortable for George Russell out in front, but if I was Mercedes, if I was Russell, I would be just keeping a very watchful eye on what Max Verstappen's doing.
Yeah, 100%. You know, again, Max on that last lap taking a couple of tenths out. Antonelli on those fresher tyres taking half a second out of Russell's lead, but he is some way behind, right? He's 13 seconds now behind George. There's, as I said, there's still over 50% of this Grand Prix to go, and Max Verstappen at this stage trophy, as we look at it, they both used one brand new set of mediums. They've both used one brand new set of hard tyres. We know Max has got one brand new set of each available for for the remaining part of this Grand Prix, whereas George does not.
He has just the one set of new hards to use. Bernie, down to you on the pit wall.
Yeah, just to pick up on that, Crofty, I think what Corinne's saying there is absolutely right. Verstappen could, depending on what George does, Verstappen can stop and fit a medium. That would be much stronger on the undercut of George if we could close that gap to get close to. If Russell decides to do no more stops and does that magic one stop to the end, again, Verstappen can decide to fit whatever he wants, try and close that gap and overtake for position. So definitely Mercedes pit wall and Russell feeling very much hunted by Verstappen at this stage and feeling like Verstappen has maybe got more cards in the deck to play with.
So Russell from Verstappen, Antonelli, Leclerc and Piastri, the top five, and Piastri's gaining on Charles Leclerc, as you can see. Lewis Hamilton runs in 6, wants to know, has the car cooled down yet? Can he push a bit harder? All the while that Oscar Piastri pushes onto Leclerc, that helps Hamilton, who is faster than Piastri, but doesn't want to run into the hot air behind the McLaren, who makes his way through turn 3. Isaac Hadjar ahead of Lando Norris, Lindblad ahead of Lawson, and both Racing Bulls running in the top 10. Gabriel Bortoletto in the Audi was just saying he's having a few issues with his car and the pace not quite what he wants. Gasly from Hulkenberg, from Behrman, from Ocon, Colapinto, Albon, Alonso and Stroll, Carlos Sainz, Perez and Bottas are the 3 that are out so far. And Ted Kravitz, we can head down to you.
Right, Mode TS, thank you Mode DC. Mode TS for the Ferraris has worked, so it has cooled the car down sufficiently now. Lewis was asking, has the car cooled down yet? And we believe he's been told that he can now go back to Mode Race. And when Lewis says he's got no power, what he means is that because he's managing the temperatures in that battery, and bear in mind it's a new engine this weekend, so the engine's okay.
Yeah, combustion engine.
Yeah, it's just the battery that's getting too hot. They're all marginal, they're all so up to the limit on battery cooling. That's why they needed to use the mode temperature saving or whatever it is, Mode TS, and cool the battery down. But that's okay now. Hamilton might get a bit more power now from his battery.
Can't stick a battery in an ice bath, Karun Chandler, but if you could, I would imagine they would want to do that at the end of this race.
Yeah, I wouldn't jump into that particular ice bath, but I could do with one as well, if I'm honest, after the race. Hamilton, you know, just with that change Ted mentioned, immediately on the next lap took half a second out of Oscar Piastri. That gap had opened, Crofty, to nearly 2 seconds, and it's now, as you can see on the graphic on the left, down to 1.2. So Piastri, the meat in a Ferrari sandwich. Leclerc, I think, is struggling for pace now. I think Leclerc, at this stage, his tyres are, what, 6 laps older than Piastri's. I think he's starting to struggle and is holding the cars behind him up.
He is. Get this, Fernando Alonso's been noted for speeding in the pit lane, but he's been noted for speeding.
At least he's going past somewhere this weekend. I mean, I really feel for Fernando and everyone in Aston Martin, because they're having a miserable time with it at the moment. You know, in terms of pace, they were slower than Cadillac. Yeah, it's been a very, very tough weekend.
I don't wish it on anyone at that team at all. They're a great bunch at Silverstone and Aston Martin, and the sooner we see a B-spec car and then being a bit more competitive, the better for all involved. Here comes Lewis Hamilton behind Oscar Piastri. Piastri is getting towards the gearbox of Charles Leclerc. Now, while that's happening, the gap 2.3 seconds. George Russell over Max Verstappen. It was 3.2 seconds at the end of lap 35.
Something's happened to Russell in the middle sector. He's lost 8 tenths in the middle sector of the lap. So I don't know what's happened there, but something has happened with George Russell. I wonder if he's had a mistake up at turn 3 or 4. But suddenly, Max Verstappen, the hunter, he can sniff, he can see his prey looming closer and closer. And Crofty, as a driver, that is so powerful. When you can see the rear wing, the gearbox of your rival in front, it's there. The carrot is just being dangled in front of you.
It is. Well, what a carrot going on here. And the battle for fourth place. Leclerc Piastri, Hamilton. There goes Piastri down the inside towards turn 3. Oh, it's tight, and they bang wheels on the exit. Not too hard, but Lewis Hamilton is now going to take advantage because Charles Leclerc definitely compromised when Oscar Piastri went past him. Leclerc stays ahead of Hamilton there. Was that good for Ferrari? I'm not sure, because he hasn't got the pace at the moment to keep with Oscar Piastri. Piastri's been gaining on him for a while. Hamilton's going to go dancing around the outside of turn 6, but he's going to try to anyway, and has got that advantage over Charles Leclerc, who made it work for him. But Hamilton's up to 5th, Piastri's up to 4th, and Charles Leclerc is not having the greatest of days.
That's the second great move we've seen from Lewis around the outside of turn 6. So he did that with Hajjal. Leclerc's now boxing
Did
in.
something come off his front wing as well? I just wonder if something came off Charles Leclerc's front wing, like an end plate. Either way, if he was boxing, not quite sure why.
Yeah, Ferrari should have caught it off.
He fought it so hard, but it happened, and no one's any the worse aware for it, unless I'm looking at that front wing. I can't. Oh yes, something did. On the right-hand side, it is missing a piece of end plate.
But clearly, they've decided not to take the time penalty would have been to change their front wing, and they're just going to let him manage it to the end of the Grand Prix. So I wonder if they made that call after he was passed by Lewis, because that was still halfway around the lap. But if they didn't, and if they were anyway going to pull him in, they should have called it off earlier, because in the end it's cost them both race time, really.
Right, we'll see how this evolves, and while we see how this evolves, Verstappen 1.7 seconds behind George Russell. What happened to Russell on lap 35, Alex?
Yeah, he ran wide at turn 3 hairpin property, a small lockup, but it had big consequences, almost right off the track. So hemorrhaged a lot of lap time on that particular one. It feels like he's really starting to struggle on this set of hard tyres. Max Verstappen says he feels happy on the hard tyres when armed, so they're likely to go for another one in the next round of pit stops.
Craig Slater asked Max, you know, could he win this race today? And he said, you know, could he do something this race? I'll do my best to go and entertain, he said. And that's exactly what he's doing. It's a typical Max Verstappen Sunday afternoon, isn't it? From P5 on the grid, he's up into 2nd place at the moment, and he's looking a very lively contender indeed. Meanwhile, trying to get up into 4th place, Lewis Hamilton has now got Oscar Piastri ahead of him. Behind these two, Isaac Hadjar on the medium and Lando Norris on the hard tyre, and Norris is not really in this race the man who won from pole last season. Leclerc down in 8th after his pit stop, then Lindblad and Lawson.
You think Nigel Mansell's theory that people power...
We need to get the Piastri. I know you're trying.
Stating the obvious. You know,
I'm just going to come in and say something right now.
Yeah, if you take Nigel Mansell's theory, Crofty, of people power, Max Verstappen has got an awful lot of that behind him, adding performance. And as we were saying before, from 5th on the grid, he's up into 2nd place, 1.5 seconds behind George. Oh, Lewis, what a snap of oversteer! And he caught it. Wow!
I tell
That
you
was
what,
breathtaking. On the entry to turn 9, I thought he was going to have a shunt, like Max had in qualifying there. What a catch.
Karun Chandok, I know you're not interested in the Football World Cup, but trust me, that is way better than 99% of the saves we've seen so far in the US, Canada or Mexico. Might have cost Lewis a little bit of time, but he is still going, and it's 1.4 seconds, the gap now between Russell and Verstappen out in front. Kimi Antonelli, championship leader, running quite a lonely race, to be honest. If you can ever have a lonely race here on the 2.6-mile circuit, he's in 3rd.
Verstappen's only 3/10 away from getting the overtake mode.
Yeah.
5-time winner, 5-time pole sitter, 3 sprints, 3 sprint poles. He's a bit of a master on the circuit, Bernie Collins, isn't he, Max Verstappen?
He is indeed. Now, what I was going to say is watch for Oscar Piastri. Does he box this lap to cover the Charles Leclerc undercut threat? Obviously, he was ahead of Charles Leclerc and he boxed. It needs to be this lap to cover it. But Leclerc has again gone for hard tyre, which didn't suit him that well at middle stint.
Well, we're watching on the driver tracker at the moment because Oscar Piastri is making his way around turn 9 towards the final corner. Under investigation, mentioned that Fernando Alonso for that speeding incident. Oscar Piastri stays out and stays ahead of Lewis Hamilton. That gap, 1.2 seconds. Russell to Verstappen, who I should mention has led 338 laps here and has got 8 podium finishes as well. Just to finish your stat about why this place is so special for him, and this could be another special afternoon coming his way at a track where Max Verstappen won from fourth in 2018, from second in 2019, from pole in 21, and from second race in 21, and from pole in 2023.
And there he is, now just 1.2 behind George Russell. But this is where it starts to get a bit tricky. From turn...
into this advantage, and he is dialed in. He's already been wheel to wheel with Lewis Hamilton, and he's shown he's happy to get his elbows out. He's confident on the brakes. Oh, he's
time in a little while only gained 400 on George, and I think that's because we're now in that dirty air. We've seen have that wobble out of turn one as well.
Would you say it's one thing to catch, another thing to pass? Is that what you're trying to say, Karim Chandler?
Murray Walker said it an awful lot, Crofty, didn't he, in all those years of commentary?
And he was not wrong, not ever. Max Verstappen hunting down George Russell. Fernando Alonso did get that 5-second penalty, by the way, for speeding in the pit lane. That's not really going to make much of a difference to his afternoon. I caught a shot of him actually in the Aston Martin garage. He had his feet in like a cold towel without his shoes on before he went back to his car after the laps to the grid, doing his best to keep as cool as possible.
Well, just looking at our team on the grid, Natalie, Jamie and Anthony, it was just explained how their feet were absolutely melting, so I'm not surprised.
It's the sort of day that makes you hopping mad, Ted Kravitz, just to try and keep 1 foot cool at least.
Oh, it's not so bad. I had to do the Malaysian Grand Prix in a fire suit, for heaven's sake. You think it's hot now? Think back then. Right, just behind me is the grandstand at turn 1 and turn 2, and it's full of Max Verstappen fans who sense a victory here. Oh, team radio?
No, just Oscar Piastri being told he's coming into the pits.
Yeah, I can see the pit guys, actually the Ferraris.
Lewis Hamilton as well.
Are out there as well.
Yeah, Ted, do you want to
take it away?
I'll take this away for the moment, and this is down to the pit crew here to see who can be fastest changing the tyres. That was neat for Oscar Piastri, 2.3 seconds. Ferrari will do well to beat that. Hamilton comes out still behind, but they did beat it by 1/10 of a second. So the crew's doing their bit for their driver, and we'll see Charles Leclerc going through now with Piastri and Hamilton coming onto the track. Ted, back to you.
So that's the third, and you would certainly hope the final stop for Lewis Hamilton, isn't it? We'll see what he does on those tyres. But if we can have the battle between Russell and Verstappen on the two stoppers, then that is going to start in about 3 laps' time. In fact, I see some movement. I think that Russell...
Yeah, Mercedes are coming out.
Mercedes are coming out. They don't want to give Verstappen the undercut.
And Red Bull are coming out too, and they've gone back in again. So have Red Bull kind of thrown the dummy here, because George Russell is coming into the pits and Max Verstappen has carried on his way. Russell stops now. Watch that, beautiful. Out he goes, 2.3 seconds, perfection.
Yeah, so good stop there for Mercedes. I think that Ferrari and McLaren had to react to Hadjar there, so they've come back out both a second ahead of Hadjar. They didn't want to drop behind him. As Bernie was saying before, by staying out those extra couple of laps, they've ended up behind Charles Leclerc now. So Leclerc's got track position, but of course his tyres, what are they, probably 5 laps now, I think, older than Piastri and Hamilton.
Yeah, Charles Leclerc has been on his tyres for 6 laps currently.
Yeah, so I think that's sort of all played out in the positions further down. Where does Antonelli slot into all this? That's where we've got to keep an eye on it, right? Because he's done the hard work in terms of overtaking on track now, and his pace has been solid. So let's see where he plays out in all of this.
Yeah, his pace is better than Max Verstappen's currently. He's just biding his time, and as I say, running a bit of a lonely race. But Verstappen isn't that far ahead of him. Isaac Hadjar currently finding himself down in 8th place. And the cars ahead of him, a few back markers before he can get towards Lewis Hamilton, who's now down in 7th and still behind Oscar Piastri.
Yeah, that's bad from Ocon. I think Ocon should have got out of the way there before turn 6 and let Hadjar pass, and he's still holding him up through 7 and 8. I don't know what Ocon's doing there. And
he's been shown the blue flag 3 times.
Yeah, I think Hadjar will be annoyed with that, because really Esteban Ocon should have let him pass into turn 6, and you know, it's cost Hadjar a lot of time there, Crosby.
It certainly has. Oscar Piastri, fastest man on the track currently. His teammate, Lando Norris, not mentioned a huge amount. I wonder if Lando Norris is trying to do a one-stop here.
So, yeah, best you can at this stage of the race. We'll just try to build a bit of a tyre offset. Hope he gets into trouble towards the end.
I think it's the front curb.
Just been told, Lando Norris, by Will Joseph, the other cars will have to stop. The opportunity for us is just the best version of yourself. He might not have the pace here. Can he whisper those tyres to a one-stop at the end of this race?
It's kind of a life mantra, that, isn't it? The best version of yourself. Yeah. We should all do that.
We try.
We try.
We don't always succeed. We definitely try.
I'm sure Lando's trying to.
So Verstappen last lap, a 1:12.3. He's got a 4.3-second gap over Kimi Antonelli, whose last lap was a 1:11.8. Kimi Antonelli has significant pace over Max Verstappen, Bernie Collins.
As long as Kimi keeps extending, but Verstappen's going to keep on extending and put us into race.
So explain that message from George Russell, because he's worried.
George Russell is doing the strategy for 3 cars around him, Crofty, isn't he? Because he's saying that Verstappen at some point will stop and merge behind George Russell, and that means that Russell's looking after his tyres. He knows that there's a chance Verstappen fits a medium tyre and comes back at the end. But would Verstappen do that if Kimi's ahead and potentially can come into play with blocking him and all these things? So Russell's trying to promote Kimi to stop, and that might promote Verstappen to stop, and then it reduces the risk for George at the end of the race. So George is doing the strategy for all 3.
Bernie, if you were doing the strategy for Kimi Antonelli, would you ask him to go to the end of this race without stopping?
I don't have all the tyre information, Crofty, but Kimi Antonelli is in the strongest position. He stopped the latest for that hard tyre, so there is more chance of Kimi Antonelli being able to do it than others. The alternative is the soft looked quite good for Lewis Hamilton, so can Kimi extend long enough to put a soft tyre on and then be able to attack Max Verstappen at the end, or get the VSC that he missed earlier on?
Lots of activity behind Bernie Collins in the pit lane. Liam Lawson and Nico Hulkenberg and Ollie Behrman coming into the pits, and Lance Stroll's going to come into the pits in a moment to retire the car.
Sort of forgot about Lawson's fire, didn't we? It's obviously put itself out, and he's managed to carry on doing another 40...
the fire at the time,
no,
to be fair.
He's done another 44 laps, so, you know, yeah, there you go. So Lawson is he's out on track. Lindblad has come into the pits on this lap. So let's just take stock now, Crofty, a little bit, because Verstappen has done a 12.38 on that last lap. George Russell an 11.0. So by putting on those fresh tyres, George Russell over the last couple of laps has really taken chunks of time out. Now, what Bernie was explaining there is obviously when Verstappen switches, and as his race engineer Gianpaolo Lambesi was saying, you'll have a tyre offset, he will make that back. But the gap's going to open up, and we're going to get that ebb and flow effect over this phase of the Grand Prix.
Lando Norris pits from 4th. That's the end of that theory about the one-stop strategy there. Oscar Piastri is on the hunt for Charles Leclerc. Max Verstappen's probably got another 2 laps where he can stay out, and if there is a virtual safety car, make a pit stop and still be ahead of George Russell, after which time he's going to come out behind him, whatever happens. Here's the run through turn 2, up the hill, climbing to the highest point of this track. Turn 3, inside line, Oscar Piastri. Charles Leclerc was expecting that, didn't fight it too hard, and now thinks, right, is there a chance to get in the slipstream and get Oscar Piastri into turn 4? But Piastri's already got 4 or 5 car lengths on him before they hit the braking zone, and Oscar Piastri makes that 5th place his own.
It's a funny business, F1, isn't it? You know, only a couple of weeks ago, we're looking at Ferrari being a match for Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton winning a race on pace. Okay, a little bit of luck with the safety car, but he had pace. And then, you know, the next Grand Prix, it just shows the competitive element of all of those top teams. They're all pushing hard, they're bringing developments, they're making changes. This is going to be a fascinating season.
He might still be on for a podium today, Lewis Hamilton. Lance Stroll retiring, and Lando Norris coming into the pits and taking advantage of the fact that McLaren had the first garage there to just nip past the Aston Martin as it was trundling its way in. As he comes out, Is that an unsafe release? No, he backed off and had to because Franco Colapinto was boxing.
Did you see the mechanic on the rear wing cleaning the slot on the rear wing there? So clearly they've picked up some debris or marbles or something else, and they had a mechanic there just giving a good old clean.
Now, Max Verstappen wants to come in, I think, and is going to come in to the pits. My tyres are dead, he says. So, he had a 2 seconds gap by the time he made that pit stop over Kimi Antonelli, who carries on and retakes the lead of this Austrian Grand Prix. George Russell will head into second place, and where Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen should be out ahead of him. Russell does go through and move up into to second place. I think Hamilton's got the pace to get some overtaking done and be on the podium by the end of this race, if that Ferrari three-stop strategy is going to work out for him. But we shall see. Through goes one of the back markers, that's Nico Hulkenberg. Verstappen pit stop is done, and now he's got fresher tyres than George Russell by about 6 laps. It's the hard tyre that has gone on for Max Verstappen, and he's on the chase again. Ted, down to you.
Brand new hard tyres, but he suffered really in those last laps.
Okay, Camille, let's go. Just maintain the focus.
What Antonelli really needs, and you could argue what Verstappen really needed, was another incident that might have caused a virtual safety car or a safety car. They didn't get it. So did we hear earlier that Max said, I don't agree with this strategy, to which Lambiase said copy. But anyway, he's now going to try and hunt down George Russell, who's locked into his tyre to the end of the race. But those last few laps cost Verstappen dear on that aging hard tyre. He did lose a bit of time. Maybe Max felt he should have pitted a couple of laps earlier.
Yeah, the gap is down to 1.2 and it's now 10.7. So, you know, Max, by staying out, as you said there, Ted, with the tyres being pretty dead in his own words, he's ended up losing 9.5 seconds.
Kimi Antonelli pits. Max Verstappen will still be ahead of him. And that's the battle Verstappen has got to fend off straight away and then see about George Russell.
Yeah, I think that now suggests that Antonelli will come out nearly 2 seconds behind Max. And don't forget, Max is on fresh tyres. You know, Antonelli's going through what Max just went through. On the last lap, he's lost 1.2 seconds to George. His tyres are now 26 laps old, so he's going through that same pain. You know, the terminology we use is going off the cliff in terms of the tyre grip and performance. And it kind of feels like Antonelli's hit that point now.
What would you do if you're Ferrari and Fred Vasseur at the moment? Would you ask Charles to move to one side? Antonelli is coming out. The Mercedes crew are waiting for him. Is Charles Leclerc going to hold up Hamilton on a racier strategy? Antonelli has boxed, as you can see now. Might have been a slightly slower stop. It was by about 0.4 seconds than others that he is racing with.
I think Ferrari do have to swap the cars because Leclerc's managing that front wing damage we saw earlier. His tyres are older than Hamilton's by 5 laps, so he's on older tyres. He's nursing the front wing damage. He looks like he's struggling for pace. So if Ferrari want to set one car off after Piastri, I think they have to swap it. And are they swapping it now?
Well, it looks like they are. Hamilton's got the pace anyway. Charles Leclerc's not fighting that one. Hamilton is up into 5th place. Just before we saw that, Lando Norris has been noted for a pit lane infringement. We saw him putting into the slow lane and going through where the Parc Fermé will be at the end of this race to get his pit box. I could ask Bernie Collins on the pit wall whether that's actually allowed or not. They obviously felt that, or Lando obviously felt that it was. Was it putting anyone in danger? I'm not sure.
I didn't see any personnel there. Virtual
safety car. Now, why have we got a virtual safety car? We've got some debris on the track. Race is being neutralised. I think there's some debris in turn 3. Oh, yeah, one of the bollards has come away. So that's not going to be a virtual safety car for long. And it's Alex Albon that looks like he hit it. Oh, dear. That 2 laps ago, Max Verstappen could have got a very cheap pit stop out of that one. And Alex didn't so much hit it as collect it, to be honest.
Yeah, greedy with the inside curve. And the VSC is now ending. So, as you said, Crofty, a very short virtual safety car there. And I think it's only Pierre Gasly, Bernie, who was in the pits, was he?
It was only Pierre Gasly, but Kimi Antonelli, second time in a row, has stopped one lap before the VSC.
Yeah, I tell you what, he'll pick some lottery numbers and it'll win next week, not this week, the rate he's going here. Charles Leclerc right on to the restart, very quickly indeed, all over the back there of Lewis Hamilton as they made their way through turn 3, dropping down the hill now. Hamilton seems to have this one covered, but we'll just follow this for a little while. There's only 40 metres between the two cars before they go into that braking zone, and Ted, we can head to you.
A couple of things. You're not allowed to overtake in the pit lane, so maybe that will be investigated. Does it say it will be investigated after the race for Lando Norris?
It's just noted, and we'll see what the stewards say.
Okay, I mean, he'll have a good reason, but I'd be a bit nervous about that one. But Lando has such a disappointing race. After being passed by his teammate early on, has just been involved and delayed here and there, and now sort of languishing down in lane, just ahead of the Racing Bulls, who, by the way, it was Lindblad leading Lawson, but they more or less changed positions during the stops, and now it's solidly Lawson leading Lindblad. Gasly did benefit, as Bernie says, by pitting just now while everybody else was going slowly. I'm not sure it's going to make any difference in his fight with Hülkenberg ahead.
And Bernie, to you.
Yeah, quick one. Have you got enough jeopardy in this race, Crofty, or would you like some more?
I'd love some more. Go on.
Well, you know where our hotel is. So it's currently rain, very close to there. So I'd say about 10 miles from the circuit, there is some rain coming up on the radar. And that is something that teams are going to have to watch, because it's so hard to monitor here. These pockets of rain just emerge when they get over the hill. And if it's anywhere, it'll be turn 3 first. So that's where to watch for the black clouds, Crofty.
Take cover in Judenberg if the rain is coming down. Could have done with that every single night this week. It's been stifling hot in our hotel, but is that rain going to come in? There's a 10% chance of a bit of rain here today. That would very much mix things up.
Yeah, if you're at home, if you need a drink, quickly go do it now, because if that rain hits us, it will for the final 6-7 laps of this Grand Prix, and you do not want to miss that.
Bernie Collins said, I want a bit of rain. I said, what, for the race? She went, no, I'm on the pit wall all afternoon. I could really do with a hose pipe just being sprayed over us all on the pit lane by the end of it. Right, George Russell is leading. 8.66 seconds, the gap between himself and Verstappen is about 4/10 faster a lap currently. Kimi Antonelli, fastest man on the track, 5 seconds behind Verstappen, and was about a 10th quicker than the Red Bull. Then comes Oscar Piastri. Lewis Hamilton about 3/10 quicker than Piastri, but he's got about 2.5 seconds to try and make up. Then comes Charles Leclerc and Isaac Hadjar. Lando Norris, who's got pace on Hadjar, but 6 seconds to make up. Liam Lawson and Arvid Lindblad, that's the points as they are at the moment. Colapinto into turn 3 is going to get Esteban Ocon, and does.
Feels like a bit of an anonymous race for Lando Norris, isn't it? You know, he's on the similar sort of tyre life as Hadjar. He's now 5 and a bit seconds behind Hadjar, and it's just not quite at the pace. You know, the gap between him and Piastri, bearing in mind they were battling properly, weren't they, on lap 1? The gap between them now is over 10 seconds. So, yeah, not a great race for the reigning world champion at a track where he's been a bit of a specialist in the past.
I said that Hamilton had a bit of pace on Piastri. The last couple of laps now, that has disappeared. That gap has opened up. I wonder if Hamilton's struggling once again on the hard tyre. That Ferrari seems better on the medium tyre and the soft, certainly, than it does on the hard. Hadjar on Charles Leclerc now. Hadjar's going for this. Nice view of the back of that man's head, and he can see what's happened with Isaac Hadjar and Charles Leclerc coming out of the corner. Isaac Hadjar thought he had that overtake done, but Leclerc is going to battle away and might get the inside line going into turn 4. Has got that inside line. Look up from Hadjar as Charles Leclerc goes deep. This isn't done yet. On the exit, Hadjar, wow, is past Charles Leclerc, and thank you very much, his 6th place.
Yeah, great opportunistic move there to switch back for Isaac Hadjar. Had a little bit of a lock-up, but I think he'll get away without too much of a flat spot there. Ferrari definitely struggling for pace versus the Red Bull here, and
this tire's up.
And I think both Ferraris are struggling on these hard tyres.
We can assume that's a negative word, can't we?
Yeah.
We'll see Charles Leclerc.
Rubbish.
Let's say that. Yeah, he's already, you could just see the Red Bull disappearing off into the distance. No further investigation for Lando Norris. I think that's right. I mean, Stroll was coming into retire, wasn't he? Look at Leclerc just sliding. You could see him. And in fact, Gasly it's that Gasly in the lapped Alpine behind him.
Yeah.
I know Gasly's got much fresher tyres. You know, at the moment his tyres are only 4 laps old, but he's sort of hanging on, isn't he? It's almost like he's being held up for pace there behind Charles Leclerc.
Pierre Gasly pitted, didn't he, behind that virtual safety car. Out in front, 10th of a second, Max Verstappen faster than George Russell on the last lap. Let's have a little look at George Russell into turn 1. Ooh, he doesn't want to be doing that very often. Going over the sausage curb a little bit and taking to the runoff area.
Did he have a bit of dirty air, I think, from the racing ball from home? Must have been Lindblad, I guess, at that point.
He's lost a bit of time, around about 9/10 of a second on this lap. If he does that a few more times, Laurent Mekies will start smiling a bit wider, I'm sure. Not that he's probably not smiling at the moment. It's still an epic race. Max on the charge. It's kind of what he likes to do, isn't it, Laurent?
Yeah, it's a very good pace that Max is showing. Honestly, not sure if it's enough to grab George. We think we need to be half a second faster. That final stint to be in striking range in the final laps. We are not quite that faster than him right now. But let's see, it's very close. What he's reassuring is you know, Max is doing an amazing race, and it's clear that we haven't been able to produce that sort of race pace so far. So it's a huge progress and a huge credit to everyone back in Milton Keynes.
But with 6 laps fresher tyres, do you think George Russell might go off the cliff a bit, and that gives Max the advantage in the last 5 or 6 laps?
No, that's obviously what we are targeting. It's probably going to be a couple of laps short, but let's see, Max is pushing very hard and he's doing the magic.
And Laura, we saw that Max struggled for pace at the end of that stint. The gap opened up from 1 second to over 10. Do you think that's cost you?
No, nothing.
It's difficult to know. You know, we will see at the end of the race to profit these points whether or not these last laps were needed not to hit the cliff again in the last stint. We will see whether George hits it himself.
Laurent, thanks ever so much for your time this weekend. We really appreciate it. Let's see what happens then between now and the checkered flag as Lando Norris goes down the inside on Charles Leclerc, who just said, if we box again, what we got to lose? Nothing was the reply from the Ferrari pit wall, and his tyres have really gone off, and you can see why. There isn't much to lose because he hasn't got much to fight back with, sadly. He's down in 8th place from a man who started on the front row today. Charles Leclerc running 8th. Lewis Hamilton started 3rd, and he's currently running 5th, and I think he's struggling a bit on these tyres too, and Ferrari just haven't got the answers in these closing stages.
Yeah, it's not been a good race. I mean, look how quickly Hadjar just scampered away, hasn't he? You know, it's just broken off from Leclerc. Leclerc's still holding Gasly up. Poor Gasly, you know, he pitted for those fresh tyres and he can't use them to good effect.
Box, Charles Leclerc is being told that'll help Pierre Gasly's move, I'm sure. Kimi Antonelli's still the fastest man on this track. And the gap between himself and George Russell is 10 seconds. Now, Max Verstappen, Karun, is in the middle of those two.
Yeah.
But would you rule Kimi Antonelli out of this at the end?
Well, let's see. It depends on what Laurent was saying earlier. Does George hit the cliff? We saw Max, for example, lose performance very quickly at the end of the stint. And on the last lap, he's gained 6/10 on George. The gap was 10.7. Remember that number? When Max came out of the pits, it's now down to 5.7.
George was making his way through a few back markers. Lawson and Lindblad, can't call them back markers, are actually scoring points here. Now Max Verstappen's got to do the same thing, but Antonelli is keeping Max keen. He's now under 4 seconds behind, and Verstappen under 6 seconds behind George Russell. That's your top 3, 2 Mercedes and a Red Bull. Ted, down to you.
So Charles Leclerc had a 46-second lead over Liam Lawson, so could have made 2 stops actually. Has only made the one, has put the soft tyre on, and so you never know, you might get the fastest lap. Crofty, not that we get a point for that anymore, so we'll see what happens there. But great job, you've got to say, of George Russell holding off, doing the lap times you need to do. Verstappen's been told you need to be half a second quicker than Russell per lap to make this at all close, but it doesn't look like Verstappen's going to be able to do that and you have to say good reaction from the Mercedes team, having had their their three-pointed star handed to them by Ferrari last time out in Barcelona. They bounced back. Good bounce-back ability by Mercedes and George Russell.
George Russell, who won the opening race of the season from pole position, was in contention for a win, of course, in Canada when he had that mechanical failure and the battery issue. Started on pole in Barcelona and finished second with his teammate and championship leader Kimi Antonelli retiring from the race. So far, so good for George Russell today. It will be heading into Silverstone, the British Grand Prix, a very timely victory, not just for British Formula One fans, but for a British driver in George Russell too.
Yeah, and the gap last time around came down by only 0.3 of a second. So George has got 9 laps to go now, and at this rate, he should be okay. Should be, unless the rain comes.
You have fingers crossed there.
Yes, but also, where, you know, there's rain. There's rain. You never know. Up in the mountains.
Bernie Collins hasn't got the waterproofs out yet, to be fair.
I have not, Crofty, but what I was going to pick up on very quickly was, what do these guys do now if there's a safety car? If there's a safety car now, these hard tyres will really struggle at the restart, and there should be a restart with 9 laps to go, like you say. So I think a lot of the front runners would have to stop and put a soft on if we got a safety car in the next 3-4 laps. Anything longer than that, we'd expect it to finish under safety car conditions.
And that's a burnt Mylander safety car as opposed to the virtual safety car.
Yeah, correct, Crofty. I think a virtual safety car, the gaps don't close up, so you might be okay on this tyre.
To be fair, only 38 laps have been run here behind the safety car in the last 14 Grand Prix and 3 sprints. So since this race came back onto the calendar, Bert Mylander pretty much takes the weekend off here. Never really used after lap 1.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of it's been lap 1 incidents, hasn't it? As we see now, Hadjar in 6th, Norris in 7th. They are pushing on. So Leclerc on those soft tyres is, what is he, 24 seconds behind Lando Norris. So looks like he's going to sort of finish there. It was a 3-stop. Why not take it in case there's a safety car? You never know. What else are we watching here, Crofty? Antonelli on the last lap, again, sneaking up a little bit onto Max Verstappen, but it's sort of stabilized there. I think George has broken the back of that Verstappen charge by just delivering consistent laps, managing his pace, just keeping it all under control. I wonder if Red Bull will regret extending that stint and just giving, you know, they had George under pressure there. They had Max just 1.2 seconds behind. They were piling the pressure on. It felt like Verstappen had momentum. You know, he'd caught him down, and it felt like he was starting to ramp up the pressure. And it kind of feels like they've given George a bit of reprieve. And you know what this reminds me of? Melbourne. When Ferrari boxed and gave George a couple of laps to just, you know, they took out the pressure, gave George a couple of laps to charge up the batteries and get himself into a sweet spot with tyres and battery. And I wonder if Red Bull will think maybe they just took off that pressure a little bit there.
Top 3 are all lapping within a tenth of a second of each other currently. We're watching this Isaac Hadjar Lando Norris battle for obvious reasons, because Lando Norris is gaining on Isaac Hadjar. George Russell cleared Lawson and Lindblad a while back, Verstappen a while back, and Antonelli has now just cleared the 2 Racing Bulls. So there's about 8 and a bit seconds between the top 3 and no cars in between them. But Russell is now catching Alex Albon, and just ahead of him Esteban Ocon, who are the next back markers, which, as we saw with Hadjar and Ocon, you know, you catch them at the wrong time, it can hold you up a bit. Verstappen has got driver of the day and the lead of that at the moment. Still time to vote on that one, and he's got 4.6 seconds between himself and George Russell to try and make up in the last 6 or 7 laps.
Yeah, and you know what? You have to say that the Red Bull has been a match, I think, for the Mercedes today, because don't forget, in that early phase of the Grand Prix, we had a fantastic battle between Max and Lewis, but it cost him time and allowed Russell to open up that gap to 5 seconds. And it's now back to around that window, isn't it? And Max having started 5th, Russell having started on pole, And the reason I'm mentioning it is there's been so much talk this weekend about, again, the future of Max Verstappen. And again, it's come back to Laurent Mekies saying, well, if we give him a car that's fast enough to fight for victories, fight for the World Championships, he's going to stay. All the Red Bull bosses are here. And I think this will help their conversations with Team Verstappen.
Max wants to see out his time with Red Bull, said his manager, Raymond Vermeulen. But he wasn't born to compete in the midfield, was the second part of that quote. And that's the most important part of that quote. And he's not in the midfield. He's currently second. He's just crossed the line now. And that last lap was half a second faster than George Russell. And that time was made up in the middle and final sector. And you know that traffic I was mentioning? That was because he was behind Alex Albon, and he's now just coming up behind Esteban Ocon. And Max Verstappen has cleared Albon, as you can see there, before they get to turn 3. So I don't think it was held up quite as much. So where traffic can play quite a part here.
Yeah, Albon got nicely out of the way on the run up the hill to turn 3. So Verstappen would have got the benefit of the tow and no loss through there. So Russell has now got Esteban Ocon between himself and Verstappen. The gap has dipped below 4 seconds for the first time in a while. First time certainly in this stint. So Verstappen is creeping up on Russell, but I get the sense that this is a managed decline of the gap by George and Mercedes.
Yeah, I don't think it's tyre wear, or sorry, tyre degradation that is causing the difference in lap times. It's the back markers. As it is, Kimi Antonelli has now cleared Alex Albon, and he is under 3 seconds behind Max Verstappen. Lando Norris is gaining on Isaac Hadjar as he fights right to the last to try and take 6th place in this race. Lewis Hamilton pretty much running his own race now behind Oscar Piastri, who's comfortable in 4th. And Ted Kravitz, down to you.
Just tidying up some other stories. Lance Stroll retired. We saw him coming to retire with a energy recovery system failure. Just looking at Fernando Alonso, who served his penalty, and because he served that penalty and had the long pit stop, I think he might be lapped by the guy in front of him. He's 57 seconds behind Alex Albon, isn't he?
Yeah.
So this is not on pace, but just a reflection of what a terrible weekend it's been for Aston Martin. But it looks like not only will be Fernando Alonso be lapped by the whole field, but he might be lapped if it goes on like this by Williams in front of him.
Ouchie. An ouchie for Lando Norris, who had to go over the curbs there at turn 3. George Russell continues on his way. There he is to complete yet another lap. Through comes Max Verstappen. Through comes Kimi Antonelli. They're going to cross the line now. Russell has to complete lap 67. Verstappen crosses the line. Antonelli crosses the line. There are less than 6 seconds between the top 3 after 67 racing laps.
Yeah, Antonelli, after a scrappy opening couple of laps where he was off the road multiple times, he's not far off the lead, is he? And on that last lap, took 4 tenths out of Max Verstappen. He's still 2 seconds behind with 3 laps to go. But I feel like after the early adventures, Antonelli settled into a strong race here.
And has been very unlucky with the timing of his pit stops. They've been normal pit stops, and he's come in 1 lap before the virtual safety car on both occasions.
Yeah, but has he been unlucky, or is it a case of he's just done the normal stops and he would have gotten lucky? Because in the end, it just means he didn't get a disproportionate advantage to the others, right? The others didn't get a VSC stop. So I think actually, in a sense, it's just been an equal race rather than being an extra benefit to him.
I think when the virtual safety car comes out, or when you've got a car stops on the track just before you've committed to coming into the pits, or just after you've committed to coming into the pits, that's a tad unlucky, but I take your point.
Yeah, I think it's you know, you like being pedantic like me. There's a difference between being unlucky and getting lucky. And I think in this instance, he didn't get lucky.
My wife said to me, if you carry on being pedantic, you will have less and less friends. I said, I think you'll find it's fewer. But carry on.
He's told this joke, dear viewers, 3 times this weekend. And all 3 times, Anthony Davidson and I have rolled our eyes. And this time was no different.
It is my favourite gag. Kimi Antonelli is now under 2 seconds behind Max Verstappen. See, Max is gaining on George Russell, but Kimi is gaining on Max by a greater proportion. Look, there is the gap here. and Kimi Antonelli. Here's the carrot. If indeed a young 19-year-old would like his carrots, and he should eat his carrots, and you should all eat your carrots. There it is, dangling in front of him, Anthony Davidson.
Yeah, exactly, Crofty. So I've been keeping an ear out for the radio message to Verstappen, and it was all about gap to the front. Gap in front is this, you're catching. The last couple of messages have been gap behind, closing. And nothing to do with George anymore. It's all about, this guy behind's catching us.
By 0.6 of a second on the last lap. We could go down to the final lap here, where Kimi Antonelli has got boost, extra half a megajoule of energy, like the old DRS, like last lap Lando, to claim his maiden podium in Formula One right here at the Red Bull Ring. Well, last lap Kimi could be the one this time around, up against Max Verstappen.
Yeah, he's absolutely charging, and the gap is now under 1 second, so he will have the overtake available if he stays within this range on the final lap. And they are not managing these tyres anymore, I can tell you. You can see Antonelli, fastest personal best in Sector 1. He is absolutely charging here. Oh, Verstappen was wide at 6. He was wide of the apex at 6, and he's cost himself a bit more time there.
So there goes Max Verstappen. Kimi Antonelli just ahead of them. George Russell has just lapped Fernando Alonso, and that might have slowed him down a little bit as well, because Verstappen's 0.3 faster than Russell on this lap. But Antonelli has got that boost as we head now towards the final lap of this race, and that is how much he's gained in the last 2.3 laps. Gasly's having a go at Hulkenberg as he races right to the end as well, and the gap between the top 3 under 3 seconds on the final lap of an Austrian Grand Prix that has been one very much to remember. There they go, Russell, Verstappen, Antonelli into turn 3. Antonelli is within half a car length of Max Verstappen. Now, can Verstappen hang on here? Is Kimi Antonelli going to try and get that extra 3 points for coming second and potentially put his championship lead at risk by making a late lunge? We shall see, as George Russell now making his way through turn 6. He's only got 4 more corners to try and seal this win. Behind him, Antonelli is fighting as much as he possibly can to try and get past Max Verstappen. But has Verstappen got this in the bag, this second place, and what will be a 9th podium at the Red Bull Ring? George Russell started on pole today. It has been a hot race, and he has been the hottest of the lot. Now down the main straight he comes. George Russell wins the Austrian Grand Prix. Max Verstappen takes second for Red Bull at the Red Bull Ring, and Kimi Antonelli charging to the line, just 0.3 behind him in 3rd.
Brilliant Grand Prix. The top 3 covered by under 2 seconds. That was absolutely enthralling.
Superb, the battle still carrying on. This is Pierre Gasly behind Nico Hulkenberg. Lawson and Lindblad have finished in the points, double points finish for Racing Bulls. They were a lap down. Piastri takes 4th place ahead of Hamilton, ahead of Hadjar, and ahead of Norris in 7th. Crossing the line, the Audi ahead of the Alpine. Charles Leclerc is right behind them and will take 8th place in this race. And George Russell back on the top step.
Great job, mate.
As of 2 years ago, yabba dabba doo. Great job.
Well done, George. I'm happy. Well done.
Thank you so. Good team result. Well done, everybody.
First time in his career, he's won multiple Grand Prix at the same venue as well. 2 years apart. George Russell is back on the top step, as I say, and back winning a race for the first time since Australia.
Yeah, and very well deserved, because, you know, there's a bit of controversy around that final lap, but he'd done the hard work to get himself in that position ahead of Antonelli, even before we got to turn 9. Got off the line well, executed his strategy well, soaked up the pressure from this man, Max Verstappen, who was outstanding today, and delivered that victory in 25 crucial points.
Good job, Max. Well done. Drove the wheels off it as normal, mate. Good job.
That's the podium.
Podium for Max Verstappen, is 129th in Formula One. He's driver of the day too. Whatever the controversy was in qualifying yesterday, it wasn't over George Russell. He, as we said at the time, did exactly what he needed to do, lift under a yellow flag. The controversy is over how many yellows should have been waved at the time. But that was a super win for George Russell. It'll take him second in the championship as well, heading into his home Grand Prix, and bags of support, I'm sure, that he'll get at Silverstone next week.
Drink system failed. Nice race for it to do so. I'm a little bit thirsty. Great job.
Well, we'll have a drink ready for you on the podium.
Yes, it'll be in a rather large bottle. It'll be cold, and he'll be spraying it over everybody. The championship now, Antonelli, Russell, Hamilton in third, and Piastri and Norris completing the top 5 in the championship. That car looks like it's been in the horse a bit as well. Lots of gravel around this track, flicking up bits of stones. George Russell, well, he could see them coming. He could see Verstappen, he could see Antonelli. He was worried about Antonelli at one stage in the race. But all's well that ends well, and a victory from pole position for the Mercedes driver. Job done. And when you're starting Karun a run of 4 races in 5 weeks, momentum is a good thing to have.
Yeah, I'm very pleased with George because, you know, Barcelona didn't work out for him. He'd been outstanding there in qualifying to take pole position in the race. Bit of an issue with the front wing meant he didn't have the pace. He was quite disappointed not to win there, and I'm really glad to see him back on top after the opening Grand Prix in Melbourne. It feels an awful long time ago, probably.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton started in third, finished 5th. The 3-stop didn't really work for Ferrari. To me, they didn't have the pace on the hard tyre today.
No, I mean, Leclerc started 2nd and finished 8th, so really not a good day for Ferrari after the highs of Barcelona. And these two men will go back to the debrief, and I'm sure it will be a pretty downbeat atmosphere in that Ferrari debrief afterwards.
Yeah, potentially. Fastest man on the track in terms of speed was Oscar Piastri, finished in 4th place. I think that's a really solid result for Oscar Piastri today as well. Started 7th, out qualified by his teammate, survived the early skirmishes. Thermal degradation on the rear tyres is what we have to ward off here. They all look like they've been in a hot one, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've had to work hard because there was no point where the pace just backed off. Nobody opened up a big enough gap at any point where they could just take a breather, take a step back, manage the pace. Nothing. It was an intense race where they had to keep pushing to the final corner, the final lap. And as we said, it's quite rare to finish with a top 3 within 2 seconds, isn't it?
As I say, solid race for Piastri. I think McLaren will be really pleased with that as well. After qualifying, they were a bit downbeat in the results of qualifying, but to come back and take a 4th today was probably a bit more than they were expecting on that one.
Yes.
Well played to the Racing Bulls as well, to Lawson and Lindblad. Double points finish for them, and a really solid race too. And Isaac Hadjar, 2 Red Bulls in the top 6 at the Red Bull Ring.
Yeah, no, very good for them. I think for Piastri and McLaren, they look at it and go, they were 20 seconds behind Red Bull. And it wasn't that long ago when they were in front of Red Bull. So the big update that Red Bull have brought this weekend, and that is encouraging for everybody in Milton Keynes. So anyone watching back at the factory, they'll take optimism out of this one, that what they've brought has worked, which has not always been the case with other teams this season.
Very true. I think McLaren have a small upgrade coming for Silverstone as well. And the fans who brought the fans, very much the correct strategy for today. It is stifling hot in those grandstands. And well, I think everyone's been treated to a cracking race, certainly in the opening stages, absorbing right the way to the end. DC has the microphone in his hand. He has the top 3 in front of him.
So George Russell, your 2nd victory of the season, your 7th of the career. And it seems to me you aced qualifying, you knew the rules. That was a tough race. You guys so close together at the end, but a beautiful victory.
Yeah, incredible to be back on the top step. It's been a little while, so I'm definitely going to enjoy this one this evening. A lot of hard work with my team to get us back on track. Obviously, there's a tricky run of form at one point, Max and Red Bull was incredible. They were incredibly quick this weekend, so kudos to them. But yeah, thanks to everyone, thanks to the fans. It was pretty toasty out there, so looking forward to a drink now.
Yeah, I can see drip on the underside of your chin. It's still coming off you. So put us in the cockpit in these hot conditions, because you had to be on point the whole way through. We saw you go a little bit wide up into 3 towards the end there as the tires were starting to struggle, but otherwise a well-managed race.
Yeah, I mean, I was having to push every single lap, and when you push those boundaries, there's bound to be a small mistake or two in there, and I knew just how quick the guys were behind. Obviously, Kimi's been extraordinarily quick this whole season, so every lap I was looking at the timing board. We pitted on the early side. I knew it was going to be a long stint, but the team timed it to perfection.
Excellent. Well, just moving along to Max Verstappen. Congratulations, your second podium of the year. As we lose our winner, George, you need to come back before we finish this interview. You were in the hunt. You really had a chance out of the difficulties of qualifying. We saw you take that big hit in turn 9, and then to come and be that close to a victory, you must be very happy.
Yeah, I think it was, of course, a very good race for us. The first few laps were quite fun, and then it was like basically just trying to manage your tires. And honestly, I think the car was in quite a good window for, I would say, a half of the race, and then we just picked up a few, let's say, issues with the car, which then, prevented me from basically finding that nice rhythm. But still, to be second, that close to a win, I think is extremely positive for us. So in that sense, for sure, I'm very happy. Yeah,
very strong race also from your teammate. You took that big hit in qualifying. It looked to me when you got out of the car, you were moving a little gingerly. Is you carrying a residual injury, or you're all good? When you got from the car, it looked like you were...
Yeah, knocked my knees. You know, you hit the bones. It's not very nice, but today was okay. So that was the most
excellent.
important.
Well, congratulations, Kimi. Little bit of an interesting first lap for you, struggling to keep it on the track, and thereafter you had to fight back.
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit too excited in the first few laps, and definitely didn't drive well, did too many mistakes, and even in the first stint on the medium, lost 3-4 seconds with mistakes. I was struggling with the brakes, but then after I changed tire, I reset, and the pace was at the end was very strong, and it was a shame that I joined the party a bit too late.
Well, you joined it maybe a bit too late, but it gave us what was just a fantastic finish to this Grand Prix.
Yeah, I mean, it was going to be, 2, 3, 4 laps would have been a lot of fun. But yeah, of course, congrats to George, Matt. Really great weekend. On my side, there's a lot to improve, but yeah, still minimize the mistakes.
Well, congratulations with that. And George, just finally back to you. You've managed to pull back 10 points. Within 40, goodbye, gentlemen. You obviously don't want to listen to you anymore. You're back in this hunt. You needed a weekend like this, and you've delivered.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, the tough races definitely test you psychologically, and these last 2 weekends for me have been vitally important to remind myself I can do it. Single lap race pace was very strong this weekend, and on a track that is probably not very well suited to my style. So looking forward to heading to Silverstone next week, seeing all the home fans. I'm sure it's going to be great.
Okay, well, go and enjoy spraying that champagne.
Thank you. Cheers, everybody.
And while George Russell was talking away, along with Kimi Antonelli, Max Verstappen and David Coulthard, the fans, I'm amazed they've got the energy, have a run in their thousands onto the track. I mean, obviously, this is about the start of the London Marathon 4 hours after the pace setters set off. But the ones who were on the track first, that was some pace.
Yeah, the promoter was telling me that 50% of the people who came here this weekend stayed in the campsite right outside the track, and I mean, we could see the fireworks, the light show. It was quite the atmosphere, despite the heat here, wasn't it?
Certainly was. Champagne bottle signed by George Russell to commemorate victory. And that's how close it was at the end. Less than 2 seconds separating the top 3. George Russell takes his 7th career victory and his 2nd here at the Red Bull Ring, which for a certain Austrian who has a 3rd share and his team principal in that Mercedes F1 team will go down very nicely indeed.
Yeah, and I tell you what, for all of the fans coming to Silverstone next week, and we're expecting a record-breaking over 500,000 people over the 4 days of the weekend of the British Grand Prix. A British winner for the last 2 races, 2 different British winners, and another one on the podium as the reigning world champion. That bodes well for next weekend, doesn't it?
Yep, 5 British drivers in total, and yes, the British fans will support everybody, and you've all got your different favourites on that one. Yeah, come and join the motorsport party that is the British Grand Prix. Cannot wait to get to Silverstone. As Karun said, potential for it to be a record-breaking weekend. And with a bit of luck, the weather will hold out as well, and we'll get a glorious Silverstone Sunday in the sunshine.
Like a little step closer. Race pace for sure was better than what we have shown so far. Start was fine, not too bad. Yeah. First one, second one.
behind and just handler.
We had a few corners.
Yeah, sure. So their pace was not.
They were deploying so weirdly. I almost tried to Leclerc in the turn 1 in the lap 2. The speed.
Really?
I was like probably 30 kph.
Wow. Do you have drinks usually in the car?
Yeah, I mean, I do drink, but I mean, it gets really hot now. It's like a tea. It's just not great.
I've never had it fail. It didn't work.
It didn't work today?
No, it didn't work. I thought
I had the same.
Really? I thought it was just frozen. Never.
I was trying.
One but two Mercedes drivers in need of a lot of water there. Apologies for any language that you heard that you might have been offended by. The drinks chat will continue, and I would imagine a lot of water will be drunk. At least over 2 kilos the drivers would have lost during the course of that race.
Look at the Orange Army marching their way down to this extraordinary to watch. But I'll tell you what was interesting to listen to all 3 of those drivers talking about the lack of straight line speed of the Ferrari, saying they were surprised with how slow the Ferraris were in a straight line. Max making a comment there that they're very good at the slow speed corners, but that that seems to be their strength.
Our commentary box is right outside, opposite the podium. I can see Bertie Eccleston stood on the podium. I knew he was here this weekend, but he's getting a bird's eye view as the drivers come out into the sunshine. For the first time ever, Kimi Antonelli scores points at the Red Bull Ring. He didn't have the best weekend in F2 here, and he didn't score points last year as he tangled with this man, Max Verstappen, coming out now for what is his 9th podium at the Red Bull Ring. And our winner today certainly knows his way to the top step as well, as for the 2nd time, George Russell stands on that #1 step, and we'll listen to the national anthem. victory today for Mercedes, and for the Mercedes powertrain, the BU unity of the engine. It is a, 246th win in Formula One. Takes them to 4 now behind Ferrari with the all-time record holders, 249 for the Scuderia and 1 for Toro Rosso in 2008 with Sebastian Vettel. Bernie Eccleston is going to present the medal to George Russell on behalf of the FIA.
Yeah, great to see George. He's a fiddle, George, isn't he? I mean, amazing. Just hearing him and Kimi saying they both didn't have a drinks bottle there, but looks like George could get in and do another 71 laps if he had to.
To be fair, Mr. E at the age of 95 looks pretty fit as he came along to hand out the medal too.
That's true. He is in a jacket as well in what is absolutely sweltering conditions.
Oh, we see style. Yeah, another style to go with it. A big cheer from the Orange Army for Max Verstappen, Red Bull's best results of the season. A 9th podium at the Red Bull Ring, and the 2nd driver in history now to reach 3,500 career points after Lewis Hamilton, the all-time record point scorer so far. The championship leader has had his championship lead reduced for a 2nd consecutive race, but Kimi Antonelli is still 40 points clear as we celebrate a hop-on here at the Red Bull Ring, and victory for George Russell. Silverstone is up next. British drivers have won the last 2 Grand Prix. Are we on for a hat-trick?
We are lost and found. Love is gonna save us. Shadows walking in the crowd. We are lost and found. Love is gonna save us. Love is gonna save us.
Same old thing, got me looking like a rock. Day by day, used to push it to the spot. Playing yeah, chain boy, I'm flying like a god. Day by day, used to push it to the spot.
Get a phone call from the queen with 100 heads. She says that they're all dead. She tried the last one on, couldn't speak, fell off, and now she just wanders a hall, thinking nothing at all. Once there was a man who had a little too much time on his hand and never stopped to think that he was getting older. But when his night came to an end, he tried to grasp for his last friend and pretend that he could wish himself health on a four-leaf clover.
Love the acid. Truth, peace, love the acid.
thought of you as sacred, got me holding tight, and I can't let go. Save me from the night, looking good on me. I see it in your eyes. I'm setting me, controlling me.
And since she's the last one, 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 fuck her backwards. And since she's the last one, fuck her backwards. And since she's the last one, and since she's the last one, fuck her backwards. And since she's the last one,
let me take you on a trip. Just a simple journey. A journey full of sound and beats. One that will lead you down, way down to the underground. I said the underground, where your body begins to tremble and your hands become just a little nimble. The underground, where the party children are waiting and there's no contemplating. At the underground, the divas start screaming, and oh how the boys are beaming. Where your feet can take the flight, and the DJ makes it right. All the underground, baby. All the underground.
fuck her backwards.
tell the difference yet. That's what you're coming for. They don't wanna let you be. They don't get back to the goal. You're asking what's happening. It's getting late now, hey now. Love for your arguments. She sips the Coca-Cola. She can't tell the difference yet. She sees the vision go. See how she see how she dances and see how she dances. She sips the Coca-Cola. She can't tell the difference. things out there that I can't explain. There's not enough time to show you what it all means. So you need to get out there on your own. Make your own mind up and let your soul grow. And all that matters is where you lay your head. All I care about is that you're always safe. All that matters is where you lay your head. All I care about is that you're always safe.
It is time for Grand Prix qualifying here in Austria. Round 8 of the championship sees us travel to the mountainside for what is
plenty more. You're my hope for the night, oh. Give me more control. Slow down for the night, oh. And you know that you're down for the vibe, and you're down for the vibe, oh. We don't say bye-bye, because in my eyes, then I'm on the rise, oh. I believe by the light, your body be smiling, oh. Easier than inside, oh. Cause you know, baby, I adore you. I adore you. Can't ignore you. Can't ignore you. I light in my soul at night. I'm out of control, I can't. I adore you. I adore you. Baby, I adore you. I adore you. Plenty more. You're my hope for the night, oh. Give me more control. Slow down for the night, oh. And you know you're down for the vibe, and you're down for the vibe, oh.